What are the impacts of climate change?
Climate change kind of affects everything, doesn't it? It's like, I know a lot of it impacts the atmosphere. That's what I've heard most of because my mother had skin cancer. And so that's why I know most about, because the sun hurts us a lot more now as time goes on.
When are those impacts irreversible?
It's kind of a question of, is it ever reversible? You know, like almost everything that impacts the climate is like, does permanent damage to some degree.
What are the specific causes of climate change?
The state of industrialization, I would say, just as we delve further into this state of modern society, it's kind of just like the direction we're going is just filled with things that impact the climate, because climate is kind of just what everything is centered around right now.
Off the record for your brain, if I keep smiling, it's not because of your answers, it's just because I like you.
Okay.
Sorry. I didn't want you to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think your impact is on climate change?
Admittedly, I've not served a big role in climate change. Well, if anything, I've served a negative role in climate change. I've grown up in a home where recycling is not a priority. I've grown up in a home where sustainability in general is not a priority. I would say that as it's gone on, I've been better by some people I've met in my life or something. And I work for a newspaper that uses recyclable papers.
That's good.
Isn't
I didn't
it?
know that.
Yeah.
Define sustainability.
Sustainability is the concept of how we attempt to alleviate that state of modernization we're in, trying to alleviate the impact it has on the climate, and in general, just making things more sustainable, making things last longer.
What are some current sustainability practices or endeavors on a personal, national, and global level?
On a personal level, I mentioned before, I work for a newspaper that uses recyclable papers. Very proud of that. National level, I would say there's a lot of initiatives within America towards sustainability. Maybe not enough, but there's certainly a lot of initiatives. Like in Baylor, I know there's a lot of sustainability stuff going on. So.
And what about on a global level?
On a global level, I would say in general, the world is moving in the right direction, maybe, but also, in a lot of ways, it's kind of fallen out of the spotlight, sustainability.
Explain what a non-renewable resource is and give examples.
A non-renewable resource is a part of the world that doesn't come back once it's used. Like, for example, obviously, fossil fuel is the primary example of a non-renewable resource. We use it, we crush it up, we turn it into fuel, and it goes into the air, it's gone.
Can you explain what renewable resources are and how they work?
A renewable resource is something that does come back. That would be trees, for example. And while obviously deforestation is a huge issue, that's because we're consuming trees faster than they can grow back. But trees are obviously the primary example of a renewable resource, alongside plants in general. And yeah.
What is a carbon footprint?
A carbon footprint is kind of what you leave behind as an individual, or what something leaves behind, and how it impacts the environment, particularly with car exhaust.
Explain what you know about the recycling process.
The recycling process, you put something in a recycling bin, it goes to a recycling plant, where it is then prepared by workers to be recycled.
Where does your recycling go, specifically you?
It's hard to say. Like I said, I grew up in a home where recycling is not a priority.
Mhm.
But at my work, we recycle all the newspapers, and those go to a recycling plant. I know there's a recycling plant on campus.
Okay,
So
on
it's-
campus?
Yes, so
Okay.
I assume it goes there.
Have you heard of the Paris Agreement? And if so, what do you know about it?
I have not heard of the Paris Agreement.
What do you know about CO2 levels in the atmosphere?
I know that it impacts the atmosphere. I know everyone talks about the ozone layer. I couldn't speak specifically on the ozone layer, but I know CO2 in the atmosphere, CO2 in the air, it affects the atmosphere and kind of thins it out, making the sun hurt us more.
How much longer do you think we have before we reach unsustainable levels of CO2?
I think it's very easy to fall into the trap of, oh, I'm going to be dead, it doesn't matter. I would say it's probably going to be a long time before we reach a point where it affects our daily lives, you know? It's very easy to fall into that trap, and it's a mindset I used to have, like, oh, I'm going to be dead, it doesn't matter. But as time has gone on, it's become a more prominent issue in day-to-day lives and how everyone sees it. So I would say it's going to be a long time, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't care about it.
What's one thing you could do right now to have a sustainable impact on the planet?
I could call my mom and say, hey, we should recycle.
That's true. Well, thank you very much for your time.